Hi everyone, thanks for being with me. This particular topic is one which I am passionate about because it's one of many topics, but it's certainly one that I have, I guess, the most expertise in a way, and that's the issue around child protection. Now, it was revealed a little while ago that the current Child Protection Department chief executive made a statement in relation to parents who are using drugs. And in this statement, she basically says that not everybody who's using drugs should have their children taken away from them. Now, that's a distinct shift in the way the department has been viewing, and social workers in particular have been viewing issues around child protection in relation to drugs that I have ever seen. Now, my question really is whether or not that's going to be implemented and whether or not it has some practical implications in terms of the number of kids that are being removed. My guess is that it won't. My guess is that things will not change, that if you have a drug addict, if you have a drug condition ranging from casual marijuana use to heroin, that the chances are you'll still have your children removed, or at least your parenting will be questioned. The point I think that she was making was that parents can still be good parents even though they may have a drug habit. Now, sometimes the drugs are used, and I've worked with people where the drugs were used recreationally, so it'd be to go to a party, to go out on a weekend, and they would indulge in some form of drug taking. And that was the extent of their drug taking. It wasn't during the week, it wasn't in front of children and so on. It'd be no different from a parent going out on a weekend and getting pissed and so on. So, and is it any different to a parent who has an alcohol problem, who just simply isn't present with their children when they are intoxicated? Now, that is neglect, but regretfully, you can have a minor marijuana issue, and you could have your children removed. But if you have a major alcohol issue, the chances of you having children removed are probably less, primarily because we socially tend to accept alcohol as being part of our community, whereas marijuana use is seen as something completely different and is a drug that they believe, the system believes, social workers believe, is detrimental to the well-being of children when one is affected by marijuana. Not always the case. It's a wrong assumption, but nevertheless, that's the way it is. Now, the chief executive, the new appointee, that is Jackie Bray, has some interesting things to say about this. And this is what she says, and I'll just show you here. Whoops, wrong one. She says, asked to outline her expectations about when the department should intervene, Ms Bray, a former Deputy Chief Executive of South Australia Prison System and a Drug Interventions Program Manager in the UK, said she did not believe illicit drug use should automatically spark a removal. And she's right. We need to look at the impact that the drug is having, the occasions in which someone is using those drugs, and whether or not there are children present when that happens, and how the parent is able to respond around the needs of the children even when on a drug. Now, every time a person takes a drug doesn't mean they immediately become super high, nor do that means that they are unable to function. There are many people who are functioning alcoholics, for example. There are many people who function on drugs generally. So this is ostensibly a significant shift by her, but I'm also wondering to what extent will this be implemented. So she goes on to say, In my career, I've worked with a lot of people who have had substance issues, and it's about the risk to a child and the insight into a parent's drug use. I don't necessarily hold a firm view on nobody that is taking substances should have their children. So once they're taking drugs, should they have their children? Well, clearly, further investigation needs to take place, but we need to change the way we're viewing drug use in order for this to be implemented appropriately. So rather than saying that person's taking a drug, regardless of how often, but if it comes up in a drug test and the drug test indicates that it is severe, we still need to be asking the question, how often are you taking it? How soon prior to this test did you take the drug? Clearly it was a small amount of drug and it was the night before, it will have a higher level than if it was, say, 6 weeks ago. So all those things need to be taken into account, and we need to be thinking a little differently about it. In a situation where a parent with an addiction was undergoing treatment, had supports around them, so this is the bit I'm reading here, a level of insight into the consequence of their drug taking, then the department could very closely monitor to see if that safety issue for the child is addressed or not. Removing is a last resort, because we also know the trauma that separation would be for a child. And that's an important issue as well. If the department is now thinking differently around the impact that a removal has, that's another difference that we need to be considering, because in the past, the department has never ever considered the trauma that the removal of that child has for the child. They don't even look at the impact and the trauma that has for parents. I did a post not long ago in relation to parents and their response to this, and how some parents have even suicided as a result of having their children removed. And I think that this is something that needs to be considered more and more often. It doesn't necessarily mean that a child needs to be returned, but what it does mean, though, is that there needs to be some form of treatment method for not only the children, but also for the parents who have had their children removed. But it also means, too, that we need to evaluate further what it is like for the child to be removed, and whether the trauma created from that is greater than any trauma they may have received while remaining with the parent, particularly if the parent is working on the issues that brought the attention to the department in the first place. So there's a different way that we need to be viewing all of this stuff, and that I'm hoping that some of these changes that Bray's making may very well bring around significant change. I'm not working specifically in this area anymore, but I do have contacts with people who are, and they certainly will inform me as to whether those changes have taken place. I'm forever hopeful that they will, but time will tell. I'm doing a post in a moment following this, which this will come out first, but which I think you should be looking at too, which is about the department returning children to pedophiles. So hope you catch up with that one. It'll be a following video to this one, which will probably be the following day. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.